her husband in due course.
Third double question, Lord Moylan.
Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the UK population is projected to increase by 6.6 million, or 9.9% by mid-2036. Of the projected increase, 0.5 million of the total increase is projected to result from the higher number of births than deaths, and 6.1 million from net international migration. The projections make no attempt to account for the impact of future policy on population movements or behaviours.
My Lords, as my noble friend confirms, over 92% of the projected increase is expected to arise from net migration and is therefore a political choice. And the answer I was rather hoping for from my noble friend was that the government would take steps in terms of policy to ensure that that figure did not, in fact, eventuate, or at least would have permitted to do so, only after the most careful consultation with public opinion and after preparation of a robust plan for providing the infrastructure and the housing necessary to sustain it. Would my noble friend like to have another go and see if she can force words along those lines to her lips?
The government has made it quite clear that the most recent immigration figures are much too high, and that, of course, causes problems of the kind that my noble friend has suggested in areas like housing. But we have taken action that is expected to lead to a significant fall in the number of dependents and from tightening financial requirements. So that's, I think, about 300,000 on last year's figures that should be reduced. Some come in January, some in March and April. And when they fully take effect on the ONS figures, which won't be until the end of the year at the earliest, we can, of course, take another look.
Of the proposed increase, how many are going to be asylum seekers?
The projections don't break the individual categories down in that way. They are, as the Noble Lord probably knows, put together by expert panels and their projections, and they look actually quite a lot at the last 10 years, as well as what else they think might be happening. But I should emphasise the point that I make, that they don't attempt to account for the impact of future policy changes.
My Lords, these figures do indeed show that immigration will account for 92% of our population increase in the next 15 years. That is 5 times the population of Birmingham, our own second largest city. Furthermore, in the 20 years since the 2001 census, the Muslim population of England and Wales has more than doubled from 1.6 million to 3.9 million. My Lords, these are very large numbers, and if that rate were to continue, it would surely have a considerable impact on social cohesion. So I ask the Noble Baroness, the Minister, when will the government face up to this situation and take really effective action to reduce the scale of immigration, which is having such a massive impact, unspoken impact, on our society?
Thank the Noble Lord. As I've explained, the government is clear that the immigration figures are too high and has taken a series of actions, so stopping care workers from bringing dependents and limiting the dependents coming in with for families to PhD or research-based students, and changing the minimum income for family visas, and indeed increasing the earnings threshold. These changes will have time to take effect, but of course the Noble Lord is right to point to the changes that have happened over the last few years and produced an unacceptable situation.
Looking at these figures, we know that we're all living longer. We know that the number of people reaching the age of 100 has doubled since 2022 and will continue to do so. Has any analysis been done on the number of doctors, nurses, care workers, teachers that will be required to look after us?
I think the analysis by the ONS doesn't go into that, but of course we have published the long-term workforce plan for the NHS, and indeed that's been accompanied by the largest ever injection into various things like NHS scanners. And our plan is recruiting and training more doctors and nurses in Britain, supported with over £2 billion over the next 5 years. And indeed, some of the immigration is for NHS workers who have come to help the country to deal with the problems.
My Lords, one of the reasons we are told why we are witnessing record levels of net immigration, 745,000 in 2022, is because there are currently 900,000 job vacancies in this country. But UK unemployment is at an almost record historic low of 3.8%. The problem, my Lords, it seems to me, is that there are now 5.6 million people in this country on out-of-work benefits and an alarming 4,000 new applications for these benefits every single day. Surely my right honourable friend, the Minister, would agree with me that this is neither desirable nor sustainable.
The figure for June 2023 was actually down to 672,000, but he is right to point to the problem of underemployment. And of course, the focus of the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions is changes to the benefits system and to helping people into work is to improve skills so that everybody in this country that possibly can has got a job, because that is very much related to content and happiness, certainly in my own experience, and it's a very, very important area of work that this government has truly underlined.
My Lords, as we've heard, the UK population is increasing, but it is also ageing, with the declining proportion of the population now of working age. There were just over 600,000 live births in England and Wales in 2022, which is a 3.1% decrease from the previous year and the lowest number for 20 years. This means the current UK fertility rate is about 1.5 children per woman, which is the lowest since records began in 1939. So does the Minister agree with Professor Jonathan Portes from King's College when he says that the impact of the housing crisis on young couples, sharp cuts to financial support for low-income families and access to childcare are all likely factors?
I think the interesting thing about the fertility figure, which the Noble Lady rightly mentions, is it's partly about people delaying when they have children, partly linked to the factors she mentioned, including housing. So, a priority for us is attacking housing, making more housing available for young people, and that is very difficult. But the fertility rates are themselves a problem, and that's not a problem confined to the UK. I used to work in Korea a lot, and their fertility rates were horrifically much lower.
My Lords, does my noble friend, the Minister, agree with me that international students make an enormous contribution to our knowledge economy and should ideally only be included in our net migration statistics when they indicate an intention to immigrate post-study via the graduate route or via application to the skilled worker route, and should otherwise be thought of as temporary residents or tourists, as Canada treats them and the US treats them, with which they share many characteristics?
I think the figures are broken down in some of the analysis that is done by the ONS. And of course, the ONS are independent and impartial, and I think that's an important strength. But on students, I would say that it is important that the number of dependents coming into the UK should be limited, although, of course, we understand those who are going to stay in the UK, do PhDs and so on, do need to have dependents contributing to our country and our economy.
My Lords, the uncomfortable truth is that our economy appears incapable of growing without onboarding some 300,000 migrant workers each year. And even then, we're talking about miserly growth and, worse still, zero GDP growth per capita. So, does the Minister agree with me that until we tackle our abysmal productivity rates, such population growth is here to stay?
I agree with the noble lord that we must tackle our abysmal productivity rates. It's something that I've been focused on, I have to say, long before I came to this House. And there are things that we can do with skills, and I look forward to the budget on Wednesday, and I hope that that word will feature in the speech of the Chancellor.
The Minister said a little while ago that net immigration figures are much too high. She then went on to say that the government was taking action. And yet, in the Times today, it is reported that there is a surge in foreign candidates for teaching jobs Britain can't fill. Why is the government not capable of training more UK teachers? Because it would suggest that the effort is not behind teacher training for UK residents.
Yeah. I was pleased to see that some of the teachers are coming off in these specialisms like physics, where it is very difficult to get people to come into teaching at the sort of salaries that are on offer. But of course the government has made a big investment in trying to get more people into teaching. I have to say that whenever people come to me for careers advice and they say they think their alternative is to be a teacher, I say go and be a teacher and don't think about any other options.
Fourth oral question, Lord Dobbs.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the questions